Welcome to day 10. Let's get right into it. One of the main pillars of our lives is our relationship with food. The problem is that a lot of our habits are sourced from our subconscious mind. 95% actually. And today we have the opportunity to invite awareness rather than a willed force, right? We don't want to force ourselves willingly to be in self-control, like having self-control in a way to it feels disempowering. And that can cause a vicious cycle to our emotional and mental health. I'm sure you guys have been there before, especially if you guys have done a lot of fitness challenges or try to use a new diet, you know, those fad diets and trying on these other things and then you know, you know the story. You know how it goes. There's a reason why that doesn't work. It's because no one's ever sat down with you to show you that you have subconscious programming going on in the background. So, it's time to dive into those beliefs now. You're safe, you're supported. But are you ready and willing? I think you are. I hope you have your journals ready because we'll be uncovering our underlying food rules. These are rules we unknowingly take on from our upbringing, family, culture, and society that we've honestly outgrown a long time ago. Because one, we're fully fledged adults now. Two, we can do and create our lives in any single moment. Change is always occurring whether we realize it or not. Things are always moving. It's time to put our beliefs around food down on paper, probably for the first time ever, so that we could really see and access something we want to continue for the rest of our lives because they're healthy, or where we can decide to pivot and shift into newer beliefs that are more aligned for our lifestyles that we want to be living, and not out of a decision we made out of survival, thus inviting ease and empowerment around food forevermore. Inevitably, these rules will be passed down to our future generations. So, this is really important work. Here's an example of my own food rules that I discovered for myself to get your ideas started. The first one is, if I don't finish my food, I will be punished by God. This is from my paternal grandmother. She was, quote unquote, a Buddhist monk. And when I was growing up, she would be upset if there was a single grain of rice left in my bowl. She said, if you don't eat the grain of rice, if you leave any single grain of rice, you're going to have to eat it in hell when you die. And not only that, they're going to become maggots. That terrified me. And I could see the love coming from it. She just wants me to finish her food because maybe she had a poverty mentality. I know my dad's upbringing was in the countryside of Vietnam where they were poor and there were a bunch of children and, food was very scarce. And that would work for her kids, thinking that it would work for her grandkids. So then I had developed a binge eating habit. Like any food that came on my plate, I literally licked the plate. And I didn't know where this came from until I sat down and journaled about it and let it come up, the memory come up, and it was like, whoa, Oh, yeah. Hmm. So that is one. The other one is food makes me very tired. This came during my fasting stages, my first time fasting, intermittent fasting, and I felt so good when I fast, but then I would be scared to eat because immediately when I ate, this is also during when like my first few years of being a yoga teacher, which was like over 13, 12 years ago. Um, when you're in like the yoga community, there's a lot of vegans and things and spirituality and just like a lot of that happening. And so I wanted to try on being, well, I wanted to see for myself like what meat does. And I was like, well, meat makes me tired. And for a long time, I said, meat makes me an angry mom, like just angry. So I would wait for the end of the day to not eat meat or something like that. Or then I would have a food coma and then I would blame that for that. But there, yeah, as you know, maybe I was vitamin D deficient. Maybe I wasn't having enough sun energy. Maybe I wasn't like just all these things, right? Whenever we get onto these journeys of figuring out or seeing how we react with food, sometimes we start making rules and it implants in our system. So for a while, I said food makes me very tired, so I would not eat until I got my work done for the day. That's another one. Third one, food masks my big emotions. This this came with the binge eating, stress eating. Um, when I would get stressed about something, about work, about my relationships, when I would feel like, I was being rejected or abandoned by people, I would just go to food. I would go to food and it would have me go into a food coma, then I would nap it off and start my day over again. So food masks my big emotions. I didn't have to deal with them. The last one, food can be dangerous to my health. This reminds me of my brother because I have a 20-year-old brother right now. Right now, he's 20 years old, and he's like my baby brother. We're like 14 years apart. Anyway, he is really very conscious about what he eats. And if I tell him, like, oh, eating, like the other day, I told him eating too many egg yolks all at once could be high cholesterol or something like that. And he's like, what? And he just like beat himself up for it. And so that reminded me when I was his age, where I'm like, everything's bad, or how like the non-toxic people out there are just saying like everything in your food is bad, you should just not eat or you should drink all these other supplements or stuff, or like there's extreme things, but everything in moderation, right? So for a while I had food can be dangerous to my health if I eat, or even the simplest things like processed food. Yes, I know it comes with factories and chemicals, but I wouldn't I wouldn't want to eat even spinach, because they say spinach has like like a fraction of the nutrients like it used to have, so why eat it and why do all that, you know? So, or like apples with those wax, those all just like all of those things, right? There's so many things where I'm like, oh, food is dangerous. It's gonna make me it's gonna like deplete my life force energy. So those are the examples, but here's how I turn them around. For the first one, I don't finish my food. If I don't finish my food, I'll be punished by God. I will just be punished if I don't finish it. God loves me and gives me an abundance of food to nourish my vessel daily so I can continue to create. Okay? Food makes me very tired. Nope. Food gives me energy. There's a truth to that. Food does give you energy, especially if you eat it as ceremony. You have good intention and you give thanks to the animal that sacrifices life to nourish your body. Food masks my big emotions. It's safe to feel my emotions. I don't need excess food to handle and soothe big emotions. Food can be dangerous to my health. Food can provide my body safety and security. And can you see, does this sound and look familiar? We've done something similar to this our first week, right? With our non-agreement, we've flipped it around. This can be very impactful when it comes to food as well. So you may have distant memories or stories attached to these food rules, like I did, like I shared, right? Invite those emotions in so that you can have the opportunity to fully transmute those triggers, activations into a more productive, effective, and liberating movement instead. While you're going through this exercise, sometimes it won't make sense and it doesn't have to feel hard. When you start hearing yourself like, this is hard, this is difficult, I'm struggling with this, you can be like, oh, it doesn't have to. Hard is a concept. I'm making it hard. It's just what I'm doing right now. Let's move through it. Just move through it. Stay with it. Once you write it down on paper, consider it done. Just allow it to make subtle shifts and changes within you, and peace will find you all of a sudden, and it will be glorious. Here's a quote that I wanted to share. Food is a creativity issue for some people. Eating sugar or fats or certain carbohydrates may leave them feeling dulled, hungover, and unable to focus or blurry. They use food to block energy and change. That's what I used to do. Maybe you have some version of this for yourself. And I'm excited for you to explore it and to flip it. As always, if you need my support, if you need some extra digging, if you need some co-regulation, you need to borrow my nervous system to help you feel safe and calm, you know where to reach me. You got this. This will be yummy at the end. And not only yummy at the end, but once you write it down and it's in your, you're changing your subconscious, right? And each time you go to food as ceremony now, it'll be a little bit different. And it'll be a little bit more different each time. So long as you know that this is already shifted, right? Like I said, intentions are always working in the background. You don't necessarily need to will it back up and then force yourself to believe it. Once you write this down, you changed it, the intention is already set. We're not going to do the forcing thing anymore. We're just going to let it all be discovered. Okay? You got this. You are loved, you are whole, you are complete. And I am so proud of you for doing this work. I'll see you guys tomorrow.